Great today as we talk about Bitcoin, the bottom everyone expects, what that projected path would look like, what worries me, what really concerns me, and what could catch everyone off guard. This is a chart here by River, and it's just lining up past bear market cycles from the all-time high. A lot of people think that, look, it's just a lot more of the same, a lot of loops, 4 year straight tops, bottoms, every dang time. I agree with River. The last bull market already looked quite different from the previous ones, though. How did it look different? Well, it looked different in so much as that here you could see price in the blue. This is the last bull market making a new all-time high coming into the halving, which was a lot different than any other previous bear market. Every single one prior before that waited until after the halving in order to make it. Right now, we are looking at Bitcoin, if you're lining up from the all-time high and past cycles, well on track. I mentioned to you, and here's that lined up right now from the all-time highs and the past cycles, and of course that leaves room here for a little bit of a bounce, and then maybe right before midterms another leg down, and then finally bottoming, and then you could see potentially working its way back up into the first quarter of 2027. I mentioned to you that, look, structurally, it looks to me that Bitcoin actually topped over here. I'm sorry, over here in December and January 2004, 2025, and that this leg pushed up was done by the accumulation into the spot ETFs. Bitcoin saw inflows of $20 billion during this period, enough to take price to all-time high. Checkmate. He said, look, on chain, Jordan, that's exactly what happened. And you know what? To be honest, just like going back to what happened in 2021, whether you think that April, May was the high or actually November was the high, I guess it really doesn't matter. It only matters what price is trading at currently. And you could see that even if you are lining up, or if February is the low and we swept the low right now, it's still up for debate about which path is actually more accurate. We're going to find out. A lot of people were brutally being attacked towards here at the top about their erroneous views, and then taking victory laps over here. It's hard to say. I think we have a lot to talk about in today's session, and we're going to get into it all. We got a big Bitcoin focus. You're looking here at the 4 year CAGR, throwing the 5 year CAGR as well, being at what I believe exceptional opportunities for accumulation. Eventually, you remember 55,000 Bitcoin's cheap. Do you think 55,000 Bitcoin is taken out in this bear market right now? A lot of people are adamant that it will be. That will be an interesting marker. Nevertheless, the difference between 60,000 and 55,000 and even 45,000, is that something for those that are looking for the long term? You know what I was really wrong about? I was really wrong about retail being left behind. I was really wrong. I was really pleasantly surprised to see, just like normal people. No, I guess no one's normal. But let me pull up a chart over here as we begin this conversation. I think this is really important to set straight, so we could take it further. By the way, we remain short here on Ethereum and short on Solana. It looks like we got some time here, looking to attack the short side before momentum begins to roll over towards the upside again. And the only V2 trade left standing is strategy, now on the short side, unrealized 27%. Everything else is out of the market. And just like many things, CTM is always on time. Now with the release of V5 stocks, it was the perfect opportunity to make the transition, as the new wave has just left. And now we're waiting here for the next wave to come in. I am going to be doing two things as I set up my own now automation here on V5. I'm going to go ahead and set up webhooks here at the same time into channels to have alerts for the V5 stocks. Roman, Thanks for bringing that up to my attention. As far as getting the dashboard with like the current trackers of positionings, I have some other high priority items that I'm working on, especially with the launch here of Mythos, or release of Mythos, and that's something that I'm going to get done. But that is not I can only run in so many directions at once. Cabby, I like the idea of creating a V5 stock crypto channel for those that are sharing their own templates and versions of. We will get that done actually today as well. We'll have those two things ready to go. And then we're waiting now for the next wave on stocks. Perfect timing on the transition into V5, V2, V5. Excellent, excellent across the board. Bringing it back into where I was extremely wrong in talking about retail being left behind. Well, you know what? Actually, the meme that I put is retail is irrelevant. And that's right and that's wrong. And retail is irrelevant at this moment in time with the current market cap that we're at and who's making decisions that are going to move this market and when. However, retail is not irrelevant as we continue to see here with inflation printing above 4% today, the exacerbation of the haves and the have-nots, the K-shaped economy. And regardless whether or not you could move the market, and of course in past cycles, in past Bitcoin cycles, you were able to see retail have absolute control because it was only retail there moving the market. And we'll go ahead and jump back over here and just put up a price of Bitcoin. And that's why you saw these mega bull markets and mega blow off tops. And now we have new participants here as we've entered into the early majority as adoption is taking place on a scale that I don't think many of us envisioned even 4 or 5 years ago. And now we're about to see actually banks enter the space if and when the Clarity Act is passed. We saw things like the government getting fully behind Bitcoin with the Genius Act, and then as well as opening up the strategic reserve, saying, no, we're not looking to sell this stuff. We're making sure that we know how to hold it. We're making sure that it cannot be sold and putting this under what is how it should be treated. Now, whether or not they work towards accumulating Bitcoin at one point or another, that is a different story. And you know what? At this point in time, it's more important than ever that people that everyone that we know make sure that they are working on a long-term plan to secure their future. I was recently at a gathering and speaking with a lot of dads, and you know what? Most of them got into Bitcoin right around the lockdowns 2020, and their knowledge was phenomenal. These people are extraordinarily well educated when it comes to Bitcoin and the network. And, I used to walk into a room and probably be one of the few and only people that really knew and understood Bitcoin. And it's not that way at all anymore. And these are people with families, and they're looking to make sure they secure their family's future. That is so important. That's so important to me. That you don't know how well that resonated with me to know and understand that a lot of people were doing what is necessary, educating themselves and then taking action in order to protect themselves and their future and their family's future. Bitcoin now trading under the previous cycle high, or is it? The last cycle was the first time we saw Bitcoin trade underneath the previous cycle ceiling, and barely. You could see right now, again, some people say, well, the highest price point was over here. And that's true. There's no question about that. But this is where the ceiling was. This is where you saw resistance formed. This is where it flipped into support. And we traded briefly under it during the collapse of FTX. Right now, you could say this is the highest price point up over here. And well, we're trading well below it. And I say, well, this is kind of where right here, we're right on it right now. We're right on the exact ceiling. I went to resistance, support, resistance, and this is where we're right on it. And whether we trade below it at any point in time, and for how long, that remains to be seen. This was an interesting chart worthy of your quick view and attention. Let me just jump over here, and this is pointing to Bitcoin's realized price. And right now, we haven't traded below it yet so far. And in previous bear markets, not only did we trade below it, but we traded below it on average of 4 months. Minimum of 4 months. Over here, 122 days. Over here, 5 months. Over here, 6.5 months. 6 months exactly. Sorry. And significantly longer before the great bull run of 2017. Does that mean that we have to trade below it? No, I think it's pointing out 2019 over here and just pointing out to this is the bear market. This is kind of where I think that we are in cycle right over here. And it was only during the lockdowns that we trade below. We came close to it. I would say this is a lot more where we are. I know most people don't view it that way. I know the majority don't view it that way. I know the majority do not view it that way. It is the way I view it, though. What worries me, and we're going to get into that in a moment after we go ahead and take a look at some other things over here, is this would probably be what most people believe is going to happen, right? And when I say most people, that's that, well, we're going to bottom in this area over here, and this is the time to go ahead, pick the bottom, and get ready for the next wave up. It could look something like this, and you could see over here a Wyckoff accumulation chart, and you could see the selling climax coming over here, right down into here, and then the secondary test, the move up into resistance, all the way down, sweeping the low over there, working our way back up, drawing some people back in, drawing a lot of people back in. Look at that trend line break over there. That drew me in right over here. And then you could see that that was faded. And then, you know what? Do you think this would be a great setup? You ready? Pay attention, everyone. By the way, Trump saying that, first of all, that I think that Trump is obviously very upset that, first of all, he's not able to negotiate with the supreme leader, the Ayatollah. And he even said, "Oh, I'd be willing to meet him," but and you guess what? The Ayatollah is like he's afraid to speak on video. He's afraid to speak on the phone because he's afraid if he does that and they know his location, they're going to assassinate him. And he's probably not wrong at all for that. But Trump is unable to negotiate here because of who he's negotiating against and the way that they're playing it. But at this point, I think that he feels that he's being played with, and therefore I'm just trying to pull up wherever we got over here. Therefore, that, you know what? It's time to go out on the attack. I don't think this is verbal. Verbal, what would we call it with the central banks and the verbal intervention. I think he's serious. I think that, you know what? He's frustrated. Iran seems to be stringing him along. And I think that, well, we could be entering the next phase over here. And if that happens, we have to watch what happens here with oil and whether or not we are seeing or will see ultimately a big spike above that trend line and the ramifications. If not, there's a good chance this is going to go. There's a good chance we just saw one of the highest energy prints, CPI prints, and that. And by the way, one thing was interesting was services that all the inflation was showing in, and we saw products for the first time showing deflationary signs. Right now, we are seeing CTAs, by the way, sellers in a flat tape marginally. I'm sorry, in an up tape marginally, in a flat tape a tiny bit, in a down tape 20 billion, and it makes sense after that massive move up. Don't forget the CTAs were selling on the way down. They were buying on the way up. They were late to react. We right here, perfectly on time, getting out of the markets, except for strategy still holding short, taking that wave, now ready and reset for the next wave. This is what I want to do. This is worth a whole session in itself. All right. So I just absorbed it, and tomorrow we're going to cover it. All right. This is, I'm excited for it. Let me continue over here and where we are and what most people expect will happen, and what that might look like would be something obviously like a bottom into and right before the midterm elections, fitting with seasonalities, and then beginning to work our way up. If that is the case, and by the way, that doesn't, you know what worries me? What happens if oil does break out? What happens if oil, we wake up a week, 3 weeks from now, and oil's trading above 140, 150, and that is causing sincere demand destruction across the globe, including the US. And you're seeing, first of all, the greater disparity between the haves and the have-nots. You're seeing a lot of people who are already on an extremely tight budget, unable, they have to cut back on food. This is it's it could be really bad really quick. Do you think that's going to stop the AI build out and the move is seeing right here in the new AI era? The CEO of Charles Schwab was talking this morning. He's like, listen, the reason that Bitcoin is lagging everything else right now is that you're seeing, I think this is a good chart to bring up as we talk about it. This is looking at AI versus XAI. And this is of note though, right? So here in blue, you're seeing the S&P 500, just the AI, and the massive, massive, massive outperformance. Over here, you have the S&P 500, and don't forget, it's heavily weighted with the AI, so you see the move down. This is interesting. Over the last 2 days, the last few days, as you saw the profit taking in AI, you saw the XAI S&P 500 moving up. That's interesting. I think that's interesting, but I think that's a very small data point to be even looking at. He's saying the reason Bitcoin is lagging behind is because of what you're looking at right now is, let me go, I have to pull up verbatim because I can't, maybe I have it over here somewhere, pulled up for you already. Here we go. He's saying right now, look, Bitcoin is, I don't agree with this, but I agree with a little bit this. You ready? Saying, I think that the market right now is very certain about one thing, and that is AI will absorb the next decade of capital. Earnings growth, power demand, semiconductor demand, everything. And so the attention is shifting there. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I completely. Do I think that Bitcoin is a hedge against uncertainty? I do not. I don't think that's the case. Other people think that, listen, the thing about Bitcoin is that it's so liquid, it trades 24/7, and people are able to access that capital at any point in time. I don't think that's the reason either that Bitcoin is lagging over here. And by the way, if you agreed with this, then it doesn't make sense that over here off the bottom, well, Bitcoin did rise off the February bottom, right? No, we're back to where we are. So Bitcoin just swept the low off the February bottom. And the S&P 500 XAI, well, it's trading up. It's not, so are, like, why Bitcoin and not everything else if all that capital is flowing to AI? No, I don't believe that at all. Actually, I would believe if you were seeing a type of situation where we wound up seeing this current bull market in equities extend out for a lot longer than people imagine, fueled by AI earnings growth, at that point in time, that would be more like the rising tide that lifts all boats, and it would take Bitcoin and risk with it. So I don't know where I went there, but the most projected, a lot of people think that this could absolutely, or this is, whether they realize they're talking about Wyckoff accumulation or not, they are talking about the bottom being in this area. And then again, seasonalities into the end of the year after midterm elections, all of a sudden seeing Bitcoin find its bottom and then move up. And it might look like, and it probably would look like something like this, like people would be drawn back in, another bear flag, ultimately taking out that bottom again, and then the move up into the bottom. Whether or not it's dramatic as this shows right now or not, that remains to be seen. But you know what would catch a lot of people off guard if that were happening, and if we were indeed looking at this 2019 over here rather than waiting for the move down below, would be something like this. This is an interesting chart. This is a fractal. I guess today's all about fractals, and fractals are good because they do repeat. Just don't lean into a fractal. Lean into, obviously, a strategy that's going to keep you on the right side of the market, regardless of what you think is going to happen. But this is an interesting fractal showing NVIDIA 2018 to 2021. And you can see whether you're looking at the Stochk RSI, the RSI, whether you're looking at price action, the 200-day SMA, the 200-week SMA, the setup is, for all intents and purposes, identical. And what you saw, or what you saw out of the bottom over here in NVIDIA, was then, here's the beautiful fractal, just a complete bar move over here. And this would probably catch most people off guard. But what's important about here is this. The move that really confirms this, you could see the rejection of the 200 SMA right over it. Look at that retest into it also. Oh, guys, that's beautiful. You see the retest right here. What matters here is this. And my eyes are looking for you. What matters here is this. And that right there was the rejection of the 200 SMA. And it's clearing above it, right? 83,000, 82,000. I was thinking or hoping that when we were in that last move up, we got to get to gold in 1 second, right? If we broke above that yellow line, which we did, that we would then melt up towards 87, 88, 89,000 dollars rejected, right? And true indeed, though, we did say that if we broke the red line, that we would see the next leg down, and there is a massive leg down. We were there on our mechanical systems to go ahead and catch it and keep it, and that's all beautiful. But I have to tell you now, we're here. There's no time to waste. I want to talk about a pattern that we all need to be looking at in 1 second. But first, let's look at this over here and look at what's going on with gold. And I'm going to look at it from this lens over here. And a lot of people seeing gold trading down 25% off the all-time high. The reason that gold is trading off so sharply right now is because of inflation, expectations, markets pricing in even a hike in this year, 2026. And that's what's putting pressure here out on gold. I wonder right now if this is a time to accumulate. I've been thinking of it, and I've been holding off, and I'm going to hold off until, and this is well, guys, I'm working so ridiculously hard right now. And I hope that in the near future, I don't mean near as in far, like in the near future, we could able to, hey, guys, oh, by the way, what happens if we want not Bitcoin bull runs, but something that holds gold for a long time, and we want something that's uniquely modeled for gold to be able to do that like that, right? Right now, though, I think the safest bet for me is waiting until we see Bitcoin bull runs on gold over here. When you're in a strong move, and this is a strong move on gold, this is a super cycle I called right here in March 2023. I said gold is entering literally a super cycle. This over here is an accumulation period that has begun. Looking back, the hedge against the devaluation of the underlining. Obviously, Bitcoin ultimately, I believe, is the fastest horse, the winner. But gold, obviously, as you all know now, plays an important role in diversification in that. I think that this is a place to be eyeing accumulation, but until the market is able to go ahead and move from pricing in hikes and or if the Fed hikes, right? And then move when the Fed moves back towards looking towards going back towards easing, that's when gold is going to catch its next bid that I want to be behind. So that's like the fundamental, the macro behind it. But from a PA perspective, you never know what's going to happen. This is an easy CTM 1.0 trend line break right over here to be watching. If that trend line breaks, that seems like that would be a place I want to be participating. And at the same time, I'm going to be watching here. I'll watch it with you. If Bitcoin bull runs, if we don't have a gold bull run template ahead of time, be watching for where that enters the market as well. I want to get into this part over here with you. And what about there? Like this looks so attractive right now, 25%, but we went parabolic on gold. And then you can see the Wall Street treat sheet. And this looks like Bitcoin in 2018. It looks exactly like Bitcoin in 2018. What happened next was this line held for a while and then ultimately, boom, crashed down. And it's attractive here, but I think that this is not the climate to be speculating into gold in so much as that, listen, while the market is pricing in hikes, and if the market's right and they do high, gold's going to continue to be under pressure. I think that maybe waiting for the opportunity, and that would be, I guess, I have to continue watching this line over here. Coming into this line over here, regardless of what I wanted, this would be a place to be look. I'm so bullish on NVIDIA too. I was asking myself, this question. I was saying to myself, what you guys remember when I kept saying to you, STRC, what's the risk? But what's the risk? But what's the risk? What? And there, now we found out the risk, and the greater risk is the strategy and time could just stop paying the dividends. That is a real risk, major risk, and a lot more. I would say better investments to be made. But what's the risk with Nvidia? Because Nvidia, to me, over the foreseeable future, looks like a strong stallion, and its PE seems very, very attractive. Its earnings are ginormous. And it's true what the CEO of Schwab said when he said, listen, like over the next decade, director of equity, I kept saying CEO, director of equity research. And this part is right. I believe over the next decade, not over the next 2-3 years, over the next decade, we're looking at this massive transformation into this new technological era, the era of AI, the singularity. It's happening, and there's going to be an insatiable, like power demand, yes. Semiconductor demand, yes. Everyone wants the chips. NVIDIA's got the chips. However, the one thing that I worry about is, well, listen, Elon's getting some capital. Elon is like, I wouldn't bet against Elon. I would bet with Elon. And Elon is looking to go ahead and be able to produce a fab factory that is like the holy grail. Like, and if he pulls that off, on one question, is he going to use all of that capacity to power Optimus, to power SpaceX, to power Tesla? Or is there going to be excess that could be sold? Just like he did with his compute he put online. He's now selling it to Anthropic. He's now selling it to Google. He's not using it at all for Tesla, and he's not using it at all for SpaceX. So I imagine that could put a severe dent into NVIDIA's margins if that were to happen. That's years away, though. That's years away. Over the next few years, I remain bullish on NVIDIA. NVIDIA, you can see right now, is coming back in and retesting that breakout over here. So look, This is the only moat, the mother of all templates, that does not outperform buy and hold on NVIDIA. And it's the best performing asset, NVIDIA. And the thing is, though, and I really had this conversation was, well, that's great today, but I don't know what happens tomorrow. And if NVIDIA ever undergoes any type of correction, like legit correction, then obviously at that point in time, it won't be buy and hold outperform. And that's the advantage over there. All right, guys, listen, here's the thing. I have so much that we need to continue this conversation and get into. Today was just laying some groundwork, and tomorrow is going to be picking up right where we are today, and we're just going to continue. But I have weekly limits resetting in about 6 hours, and I want to juice out as much work as I could get on Fable right now for building out everything that I can. So that is important. So I'm going to just pause here today. Little short on our session, our time together, because it's fun. It's like it's amazing. I also want to get to Roman talking about setting up the alerts into the Discord for V5 stocks. I want to go ahead and open up the channel for sharing templates that Cabby suggested. Those two things I'll do in between building here. But I'm going to get back to building. Then I'm going to get to presenting tomorrow for you all what I wanted to do, JK. Absolutely love to see you in here, my friend. That's beautiful. It's amazing. I want to get into talking about a particular pattern. Ace actually triggered this. Ace was talking the other week, and he was saying, I've been studying breakouts. And I've been studying when they hold, when they fail. And that set off a rabbit hole inside my mind about an inverse. And then over here on Bitcoin, we have over here a pattern that we just need to get into tomorrow. I'm not trying to like leave you with a cliffhanger. I can't. I just gotta wait. I can only do so much at once. And today's presentation was super important. We talked about two things. We missed one thing. We talked about which is the most probable coming off of what most people expect, the bottom of the cycle to end right on time, 4-year cycle. We talked about why that ultimately probably winds up looking like some type of Wyckoff accumulation. We talked about what might be wrong, and I talked about where I think we are in cycle, and that is over here where we left an air gap, even though we have right now, and that it could look something like this fractal over here if that were to happen. And the only thing that matters anyway, if that is the case, is getting above right here that rejection we just had of the 200-day SMA, which, by the way, is the same thing when you look at what's happening over here with the Wyckoff accumulation. It's getting above that retest over here that really makes the difference. Is that late? It is late over here. And you could see that right now, CTM, if it happens, you want to be there to participate. Now, generally what we do is this type of trend line, we have it right over here, so I don't need to go back to it. Just come up, bring it up over here. And we had the breakout, the retest, rejected, right? And then that's a new trend line over here to watch. And then what? That's where we're just going to keep it. We've come back so far we can't. We have to watch them both as it happens. As we get closer, I will go ahead and keep them both up and we'll watch for a breakout. But as I'm watching this, I think that every one of you can notice too what the important right now. This changes as time goes on. Right now, the important thing is getting back above that last breakdown, the red line, right? Reclaiming that breakdown would be the answer we're looking for. We're far from that. We're under pressure, but we're probably going to make a move into this area over here, back towards 70,000, and either to drag a lot of people in and then set up that next move down, and or to get a lot of people shorten expecting that, and then allow for the breakout, and then we're into that NVIDIA fractal if something like that were to take place. So what I'm saying to you is, rather than waiting for the confirmation, which is the 200 SMA that was just rejected, that horizontal move above it, that's great. That's true. That's the confirmation, but that's late. So that's what we'll be watching over there. All right, y'all. Yeah, I'm watching. I'm not participating. As if you ask me right now, when Anthropic goes public, I want it. I think that is I'm concerned about the cost of usage, and I think that it's going to I was going to say I think it's going to continue to rise. A lot of let's say mega corporations are spending an enormous amount of spend, and they can't continue at that pace. So I feel like it built up the valuation for now, and that we're going to see a lot of consolidation running sideways on that, and that you're going to see into the end of the year, like the first quarter for Anthropic was their best. And if that doesn't happen, that's a great sign about the future for Anthropic. I think that's what's going to happen. Uh, I think that seems to be the future I want to be a part of, as far as holding a company, just putting it away in the portfolio and holding it for a long time. SpaceX, I could say the same about, but I don't know that. Uh, I feel like there's going to be a lot of insiders using it as a liquidity event. Um, I'm not so sure that. Well, I'm sure that I'm not buying the IPO, and I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, you know what? Look, I'll build out a position at another time. It's something I would like to own, something I'd like to hold. How about you all? Who's buying this SpaceX IPO? Who's buying the Anthropic? Who's buying OpenAI? And I'm just interested to hear your opinions. I learn a lot from you all. So let me know here, replay crew, out in the comments, and I'll get the chance to review that. Friday, SpaceX IPO. IPOs generally are not liquidity events that stop bull markets. They're actually fuel that keeps it going. And we're going to see Elon going out on a spending spree soon to be had. I can't wait to be watching it with you all, though, and watching the PA and figuring out how to start building those positions. Everyone, beautiful day. God bless you. Thanks for being a blessing. I'll see you all soon.